Hey guys, how's everybody doing tonight? It's gonna be posting a quick update here on my portfolio and what's about to change. I'd mentioned some changes previously. So as you guys see, it's 11:20 at night. It's kind of later in the night, but it's kind of the only time I have right now to get something going. So I'm gonna try to make it quick, but I do have a decent amount to go over because as I mentioned, my portfolio is going to change drastically. Based off some ideas I've been seeing other people doing. I'm in Oklahoma City right now working, so I'll be heading out pretty early in the morning. So I got to get my video ready now. So I'm not going to have any time in these next few days. If you're ever wondering what I do for work, I've mentioned it. I drive one of those cargo vans around. So I specialize in priority freights. So I pick something up from somewhere randomly and drop it off wherever I got to go. It's pretty simple. So I'm showing the portfolio total here, and it looks like it's gone up a fair bit since after hours have opened. I've got all my buys lined up right here. But really, I'm gonna go to this other app here. This is kind of my focus because if anybody doesn't know how margin works exactly, it sounds really complicated, but it's really not. I feel like I've explained it to my mom or my buddies so much to where it's like, all right, I'm used to talking about it because it's for people that don't invest, you got to kind of speak in really, really simple terms. And I feel like I've talked about it so much to them, I've made it really easy to talk about because I kind of didn't have that great of an understanding for it pretty recently either. But for now, these are my dividend stats. They look okay, but really my main goal is to get that yield down. For now, the yield is just bridging the gap between the margin so I don't get a margin call. Anybody that watches those Paycheck to portfolio videos already knows exactly how that works. My portfolio shows 51,000. The net asset value is 17,000. Here's what the margin looks like. I'm using a crap ton of margin. That number on the top, the margin total or margin used, is what I'm trying to reduce. The whole goal is to attack that number and get this margin buffer lower. Because in the event of a stock market crash, I would probably be screwed. But the kind of the thing I have working for me, the reason why I don't have any fear on here is because my dividend stats, like I showed, are pretty good here. I get paid a fair bit. It's all really, really top heavy. I'm working really hard right now to this Chippy and SATA. I don't want that to be my main income payers. I'm going to be adding lots of other stuff. I do make a pretty good income, and I do have a lot of rental income on the side, so I kind of have a couple of hedges of protection to keep me from probably ever getting a margin call. If I ever need to at any point, I could drum up some cash and keep my account from going under. And we'll see what my first paycheck is, but it should be a fair bit. I'm assuming I'm probably going to be able to deposit over $1,000 this week, so we'll see when we get there. And it's pretty cut and dry. If I deposit and invest $1,000, I can pull up to $500 of that money out, which I probably will because I'm broke right now. Pull that $500 out, pay some credit card bills off. I'm going to pay for my working expenses first and then deposit the remainder. Because outside of my credit card debt that I've accumulated from not having my van, I don't really have a ton of bills right now. I'll show you my Robinhood Gold card for anybody that doesn't have one yet. Not looking too great. $8,000 of credit card debt seems like a lot, but I've got my rewards here. I'm going to go ahead and do this since we're on camera here. Redeem. I do spend a lot of money in gas and food while I'm on the road, so I can deposit that $15.89. Probably going to buy some more waste management. But really, the video is mainly to keep you updated on how my portfolio is going and how the strategy is working and how fast this thing can grow. I'm watching these other guys grow their account insanely fast because of their strategy. And I feel like more people are going to start doing it. I feel like by doing it now, although it is very risky if you manage your money poorly, it seems to be extremely profitable, especially if you're a higher income earner or if you don't have a lot of bills. And luckily right now I'm kind of in a good spot where I have both of those things knocked out. And I've already made a lot of mistakes in the stock market, so I feel like hopefully the mistakes are going to start slowing down. So that's pretty much what I got going on when it comes to the strategy, what the strategy is changing to is to the whole paycheck to portfolio thing. Tomorrow, I've got plenty of buys going on. I've got a little bit of chippy, a little bit of weak. I used a little bit of rental income from the Airbnb to make some more buys. But my main purchase here, I'm going to buy $75 of Waste Management. And it's not only because it's a great company. That I used to watch a guy named Ari Gutman a lot, which I just have been busy. I don't watch as much YouTube. He went on and on and on about Waste Management, and I've looked into it a little bit and realized how good of a company it was. And you just see, it's one of those eye test things, but you can't just go off the eye test because if, somebody made a really good post pointing out Nike, for example. If you only use the eye test when it comes to stocks, you would come out a loser sometimes. Nike is, and the same with Disney. Hey, those are two big time stocks, big companies known worldwide that are absolute, garbage cans when it comes to their status in the stock market. They've kind of fallen off a mountain. They're very unpopular, probably not held by your average retail investor. I always use Starbucks in my mind as an example too of like, I do see Starbucks everywhere and I like Starbucks. I go to Starbucks, but the management of their stock and their payout ratio and some other silly things have, not been the best. For this portfolio, maybe that wouldn't be the best to go load the boat on. So right now I can't really buy very much because I just started back working. But this number here, I just want everyone to pay attention to this number here of how fast this number is going to go up. Because you don't understand. I live a pretty extreme life when it comes to living way below my means. Pretty capable of, I've got good self-control of not spending money. I literally am surviving. I ate trail mix for dinner tonight. I don't spend money if I don't have to. Give me some protein and some water. And, I'm willing to make these little small sacrifices for my future, my future, my family's future. There's a lot of stuff, I don't have a family yet. I have my immediate family, don't have kids, but these are all things that are going to matter, looking back, when I'm 50 or 60 years old and I have a child that's almost grown, all these little small things add up, even though my dad, may not have made the best decisions in his life at certain points or most points. Now that I'm a little older, I look back and I'm like, there's probably some things that, he had to sacrifice, whether it was, hey, eating a great meal or this and that, whatever the case may be, at some point to get your family across the finish line, you probably have to sacrifice. And I would rather get my sacrifice out of the way now because I like to eat good and I like to, I'm a lot lazier than my dad. I like to chill out. This whole portfolio is because I want to relax at an earlier age. I would love to be 50 years old and not have to work a super crazy job. My personal dream, I always tell my girlfriend I want to be the world's richest grill cook. I always worked in restaurants before, but I can't make the money I need to survive as being a grill cook. But of all my jobs I've ever had, I never was a grill cook until I was 28 years old. Of all my jobs I've ever had, that was my favorite job. Hey, just cooking steaks and serving food. As simple as that is, somebody's got to do it. I would love to make a ton of money and revert back to doing that simple job, but still be able to, I would like to live the financial life of an engineer or a doctor, but I work a very simple job. So I'm going to go back to this app over here real quick. Oh, not that one. These numbers here, 3,000. My current goal right now is $12,000 is the goal I'm working hard towards. This is probably going to be like the main, what my videos are going to revolve around, trying to get to this goal. And I'm going to try really hard to get there without, I'm going to slowly stop adding so much high yield. But at the end of the day, for now, I kind of have to add high yield to make this strategy work because those dividend payments cover my margin interest and they bridge the gap a little bit. Doesn't matter if it's $30 a week. It keeps me from getting anywhere near a maintenance call. And the main reason why my portfolio probably is more safe than the average character with this portfolio, the Round Hill investment here, it's a weekly treasury bill. I'm going to have to add a pretty decent amount of that as time goes on. With this strategy, I'm going to keep adding that very slowly because, the asset value has a low maintenance ratio, and it always stays at $100 or within a few cents of $100, and it pays you every week, a small dividend. But it's just to keep my account extremely stable in case something silly happens. I don't want to scramble. And I'm making a big risk by doing this strategy just in general because my margin maintenance, I'm starting out at the worst. Usually you start out in the opposite. You start out with the maximum margin maintenance and you're in really good shape, and you slowly build up to where you are running a little bit higher debt. I'm starting out with max debt right away because I feel that confident in myself. I'm just going to take a bet on myself. No matter what happens, if you got a maintenance call, you can always just sell a position to balance that out. Hey, if you got a green position, you can sell that to counteract the whole thing. But I really don't think I'm going to have to do that. If that happens to me, I'll tell you guys. And on my portfolio here, I'm going to keep Salesforce in my portfolio, but I'm going to trim that big time once it goes green. So we're going to go back to Robinhood. Probably my next big move besides adding waste management. Obviously SPMO is one that's getting bigger. But the Salesforce, I'm going to sell it for a gain, whatever that gain might be, who knows, probably more than 0.11%. I would like it for it to get to probably wait for it to go on a good green run, hey, 3 or 4 or 5% day, and sell it for a decent profit, move those profits somewhere else, and then move that actual money. Probably going to build a larger position in waste management, somewhere between $5,000 or $6,000. I'm actually going to spend that $15 that I just got. I'm probably going to buy more weak because honestly, my account is it's extremely risky. Like for a while, I'm going to have to focus more on safe positions and more treasury bill to counteract the fact that I have so much high yield stocks in my account. So I think that's all I got going on for you guys. I think the last thing I want to mention, CEG is kind of my honorable mention. The Nathan Roberts guy I watch has mentioned it multiple times, and I looked into it and kind of learned a little bit about it as far as their financials and what their company does, nuclear energy. I don't really spend much time. I'm not really a stock researcher per se. I kind of just watch other people to get my information because I just don't really have the willpower or the time even to want to deep dive into a stock. I do my own deep dives and, search, that app right there gives you a lot of stats. And then you also, you can just Google, hey, tell me everything about Constellation Energy. And then bam, it'll start running numbers for you on YouTube. Someone else will post a video for me to tell me what I need to know. So I think it's a good stock. It produces, a large amount of nuclear energy, and obviously things, energy is going to be a hot commodity going forward. It already is, but it's going to be amplified, I believe, in the future. So this is what I'll leave you guys with here. These stats looking pretty good so far, but like I said, I really need to focus on these stats under the CHPY. IAUI is perfectly fine being high up there because it's a gold ETF with NEOS. SATA's okay. It's backed by Bitcoin. They say they have 20 years of dividends that they can pay out. They won't run out of dividends for 20 years, so I'm willing to take a gamble on them because they're paying me dividends every single day to keep my inch away at my portfolio maintenance. So we'll see how these numbers look as time goes on. $483. I'm hoping to finish the year, closer to $2,000 or $3,000. But like I said, this is all, just kind of a big experiment, and I hope other people try it. But the guys that I've watched, done a pretty good job. And by the way, if anybody's never been to Oklahoma City, it's like 10 times nicer than what I would ever expect. Not that I ever had anything negative to think about Oklahoma City, but what do you really think when you think about it besides basketball? And I don't know, maybe a couple of college football teams. Never thought much of it, but it is super nice. The people here are super nice. It's I went to an all-you-can-eat sushi place, and it was like one of the best little Asian spots I've been to in a long, long time. So, all right, guys, everybody have a good night. We're back to work this week. You guys have a good one.